Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, Lincoln Penny from 1976. At first glance, it looks like any other small copper coin that's been passed around for decades, dull, worn, and ordinary. But beneath that simple surface lies a story filled with history, hidden value, and an incredible surprise that has left collectors in awe for years. This is not just another penny, it's a tiny piece of American history that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. So, before you toss that old penny aside or drop it into a jar, take a moment to learn what makes the 1976 Lincoln penny so fascinating, and why some are worth an unbelievable fortune. The 1976 penny was struck during a very special time in American history, the country's bicentennial celebration. While the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins were given special 1776 to 1976 dual-date designs to honor 200 years of independence, the humble Lincoln cent kept its familiar look. Abraham Lincoln still sat proudly on the obverse, while the Lincoln Memorial remained on the reverse. But what most people didn't realize was that this seemingly unchanged design hid several varieties and minting quirks that would later become treasures for collectors all over the country. By 1976, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. These coins came from three locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The mint marks D for Denver and S for San Francisco can be found just below the date, while Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at all. But not all pennies were created equal that year. Subtle differences in dies, striking pressure, and planchet composition created rare varieties that, decades later, have become some of the most desirable finds in the world of numismatics. One of the most famous varieties from 1976 is the double-die penny. In some of these coins, the date, lettering, or parts of Lincoln's profile show a distinct doubling effect, caused by a misalignment during the die production process. When you look closely, you might notice the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appearing slightly overlapped or shadowed, and that's not wear or damage. It's a genuine minting error, and collectors absolutely love these because no two double dies are exactly alike. Each one is unique, a snapshot of a rare mistake frozen in metal forever. Another feature that can make a 1976 Lincoln penny valuable is its condition. Most of these coins circulated for decades, picked up scratches, and lost their original shine. But a few were saved right after minting, stored carefully, and never used. These are known as mint state or uncirculated coins. When these are graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC and receive high grades such as MS 67 or MS 68, their value skyrockets. The sharpness of the strike, the gleaming red color of the copper, and the absence of even the smallest blemish can make collectors pay huge amounts to own one. Then there's the mystery of the copper composition itself. By 1976, pennies were still being made primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc. But slight differences in metal purity, striking pressure, or planchet thickness can make certain examples stand out. Collectors often weigh their coins to identify anomalies, because sometimes, an odd weight can point to an unusual metal mix or experimental planchet that slipped through the minting process unnoticed. A tiny difference of a few hundredths of a gram can be the clue that reveals a hidden rarity. Adding to the excitement are proof coins, specially struck Lincoln cents made only at the San Francisco Mint. These proofs were not meant for general circulation. Instead, they were created for collectors with a mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details. If you ever come across a 1976 S-proof penny, hold on to it, especially if it's in perfect condition. Some of these proof coins have gone on to sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their quality, color, and rarity. Collectors love the 1976 penny not just for its potential value, but because it connects two powerful American stories: the enduring image of Abraham Lincoln and the spirit of the bicentennial. Each coin represents a moment when craftsmanship and national pride came together, resulting in a piece of art that millions of people handle daily without ever realizing its hidden importance. So how do you know if the penny sitting in your drawer could be worth a fortune? Start by checking the mint mark under the date. Then, examine the coin closely for any doubling or misprints on the lettering or Lincoln's face. If your penny shines with its original red luster and looks untouched, it could be an uncirculated gem. And if it's a proof coin with that mirror finish and deep, flawless details, you might be holding something extraordinary. Over the years, collectors and treasure hunters have reported incredible discoveries, coins they thought were worthless turning out to be ultra-rare varieties worth life-changing sums. It's stories like these that make coin collecting such an exciting adventure. Each coin tells a story of history, craftsmanship, and sometimes, pure luck. And the 1976 Lincoln Penny continues to surprise people with how valuable it can be when found in the right condition and with the right features. Today, we'll journey back to 1970 to uncover what makes this little coin so special, why collectors hunt for it, and how one tiny detail could turn your ordinary-looking penny into a prize worth thousands. The 1970 Lincoln Penny was produced during a time when America was undergoing massive change, socially, politically, and even in the world of coinage. The design of the Lincoln cent had already become iconic by this time. On the obverse side, the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate his 100th birthday, remained a powerful symbol of leadership and freedom. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial proudly stood as a tribute to unity and strength, capturing the nation's spirit in a single design. But what most people didn't realize was that hidden within some of these 1970 pennies were minting errors so rare that they would one day become legendary among coin collectors. During 1970, pennies were minted at 3 major U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, with no mint mark; Denver, with the D mint mark; and San Francisco, with the S mint mark. The San Francisco Mint produced both regular business strike coins and proof coins, special high-quality versions created specifically for collectors. It was in these proof coins where one of the most famous and valuable errors in modern coin history was born, the 1970 small-date Lincoln Penny. This rare variation occurred because the U.S. Mint used 2 slightly different styles of number punches for the date, one larger and one smaller. In the small date version, the numbers in the date appear slimmer and slightly higher than the large date version. The difference might seem minor, but for collectors, it's massive. The 1970 small date proof penny is far rarer than its large date counterpart and quickly became one of the most sought-after modern proof coins ever discovered. But that's not all. The 1970 double die obverse penny adds another layer of fascination to the story. This variety was created when the coin die was accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles, leading to a noticeable doubling effect on the date and lettering. When you look at the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" on these coins, you can see clear signs of doubling, an unmistakable hallmark of a minting error that drives collectors wild. Each of these coins is like a fingerprint of history, unique, distinctive, and incredibly valuable. The 1970 Lincoln pennies are also admired for their composition. Unlike modern pennies made mostly of zinc, the 1970 pennies were still composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that warm, rich color that collectors love. Copper coins tend to age beautifully, often developing a deep red or brown tone over time, and those preserved in mint condition still shine as brightly as the day they were struck. Condition plays an enormous role in determining a penny's value. Coins that have circulated heavily, those with scratches, wear, or discoloration, generally hold only face value. But uncirculated examples, proof strikes, and error coins kept in pristine condition can fetch enormous prices. Collectors often grade coins using a detailed scale, and a 1970 penny in a high mint state grade like MS-67 or a flawless proof grade like PR-69 or PR-70 can be worth far more than you'd expect. Imagine discovering an old coin collection passed down through generations, flipping through the pennies, and spotting that tiny S mint mark beneath the date. Then, you take a closer look and notice the smaller date style or perhaps even the faint doubling on the numbers and letters. Your heart races as you realize that this ordinary-looking coin could be something truly extraordinary. Many people have done exactly that, finding life-changing treasures tucked away in their drawers or coin jars. The 1970 small date and the 1970 double die pennies have both sold for astonishing amounts at auction. Their combination of rarity, historical significance, and perfect condition makes them prime targets for collectors worldwide. Even non-proof versions from the Philadelphia and Denver mints can be valuable when they show strong strikes, brilliant color, or unusual errors such as off-center strikes or planchet flaws. Every single 1970 penny tells its own story, but the ones with unique traits tell a story that's worth thousands of dollars. These rare coins are reminders of a time when minting was still done with a human touch, when small imperfections could lead to incredible discoveries. They also show that treasure hunting doesn't always require digging in the ground. Sometimes, it's as simple as looking closely at the change in your pocket. If you're a collector or even just a casual coin enthusiast, take a moment to examine your older pennies. Look closely at the mint mark under the date. Compare the size of the numbers, especially the 7 and 0. Check the details under good lighting or even with a magnifying glass. The smallest difference could reveal a small date variation or a doubling pattern that transforms a common penny into a valuable prize. Over the years, these 1970 Lincoln pennies have continued to gain popularity among collectors. They represent more than just money, they represent moments in history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. And who knows? Maybe your next handful of pennies will contain one of these elusive treasures. Today, just another ordinary copper penny in your hand could, in reality, be one of the most valuable treasures ever minted by the U.S. Mint. It's a coin that continues to surprise even the most experienced numismatists, and it might just be hiding in your pocket change right now. So, sit back as we uncover the hidden secrets of the 1971 Lincoln Penny, a small piece of metal that tells a big story of American history and could be worth far more than you'd ever expect. The year 1971 was an important time in the history of U.S. coinage. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, was already a national symbol, a reminder of integrity, leadership, and unity. By 1971, this iconic design by Victor David Brenner had been circulating for over 60 years, and it remained one of the most familiar coins in every American's pocket. On the obverse, the powerful profile of Lincoln gazes forward, and on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, proudly representing American strength and democracy. But hidden among the billions of pennies struck that year are a few rare and mysterious varieties that have turned this simple coin into one of the most intriguing treasures ever discovered. The 1971 Lincoln pennies were produced at 3 different mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The ones minted in Philadelphia bear no mint mark, those from Denver have the small D mark under the date, and those from San Francisco, the S mint mark, were primarily proof coins made for collectors. Each mint had its own quirks, and each produced its own set of surprises. But one of the most famous and sought after of all is the 1971 double die obverse penny. This error coin is the result of a rare mistake made during the die creation process. In 1971, coin dies were still being made by impressing the design multiple times onto the steel die. If the impressions didn't align perfectly, the result was doubling, where the letters, numbers, or even parts of Lincoln's face appear slightly shifted or shadowed. When this double die was used to strike coins, it produced pennies with a noticeable doubling on the obverse side, particularly in the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date, 1971. The effect is stunning and unmistakable when seen under magnification, and collectors have spent decades searching for these rare error varieties, but not all 1971 Lincoln pennies are the same. Even among non-error coins, condition plays a massive role in determining their value. Most 1971 pennies have been in circulation for decades, showing signs of wear, scratches, and discoloration. However, those that have been preserved in perfect uncirculated condition, still gleaming with their original red copper luster, are a true sight to behold. These coins are often found in rolls, mint sets, or proof sets that have been carefully stored away for years. When graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC and assigned high grades like MS-67 or MS-68 red, they can bring in serious money at auctions. The 1971 S-proof pennies are also highly sought after. Proof coins are struck using polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and sharp, detailed designs. The difference between a regular penny and a proof coin is obvious at first glance. the proof coin looks almost like a tiny work of art. Some 1971's proof coins were made with minor variations or minting anomalies, making them even more valuable. Proofs that have been kept untouched in their original cases and have retained their deep mirror shine can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their grade. Another interesting detail about the 1971 penny is its composition. These coins were still made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that rich reddish tone that collectors love. This was before the mint switched to a mostly zinc composition in 1982, so the 1971 pennies have the weight, color, and sound of old American coinage, something that many modern coins simply lack. Over time, the natural patina of copper adds character to each coin, and the best preserved examples show a brilliant red hue that makes them even more appealing. Collectors around the world admire the 1971 penny not only for its potential value but also for the story it represents, a time when every coin was made with precision and human craftsmanship, yet still subject to the rare and fascinating imperfections that make numismatics such an exciting hobby. The double die error, for instance, was not just a simple mistake, it was a glimpse into the delicate and complex process of minting coins, where even a fraction of a millimeter could create a masterpiece worth thousands. Imagine this: you open an old jar of coins that's been sitting in a drawer for decades. You pour them out, and among the pile of ordinary copper pennies, one catches your eye. You notice something strange about the lettering, a slight doubling, a shimmer that doesn't look quite normal. You pull out a magnifying glass, take a closer look, and realize that you might be holding one of the rarest Lincoln pennies ever struck. For some lucky collectors, that dream has become a reality. At coin shows and auctions, these rare 1971 double-die Lincoln pennies have sold for staggering amounts. The combination of rarity, demand, and historical significance makes them a centerpiece in any serious collection. Even perfectly preserved standard 1971 pennies in high mint state grades can attract competitive bidding, especially if they display full, bold details and deep red luster. It might sound unbelievable, but among millions of ordinary copper coins that passed through people's hands that year, there exist a few rare 1981 Lincoln cents that could completely change your life. So before you toss that old penny into a jar or use it to pay for something small, you might want to take a closer look, because that tiny coin could be hiding secrets worth far more than 1 cent. The year 1981 was a fascinating one for coin collectors. It was the last full year the U.S. Mint struck Lincoln cents made mostly from copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc, to be exact. Starting in 1982, the composition of the Lincoln penny changed to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, due to rising metal costs. That makes the 1981 pennies among the last of a historic era, and collectors treasure them for their solid copper content, distinctive shine, and bold details. But what really excites collectors and experts alike are the rare minting varieties, errors, and unique die characteristics that make certain 1981 Lincoln pennies worth far more than their face value. Let's begin with where these coins were made. The 1981 Lincoln penny was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, No Mint Mark; Denver, D Mint Mark; and San Francisco, S Mint Mark. The San Francisco Mint primarily produced proof coins, highly polished coins made for collectors and not for everyday circulation. But the story gets interesting with the differences in design between 2 types of proof coins from that year, the 1981 Type 1 and Type 2 proofs. The Type 1 proof penny features a mint mark S that looks filled or blurry, while the Type 2 proof penny has a sharp, clear S. The Type 2 proof is much rarer because it was made with an improved die design late in the year, and not many were produced. Coin collectors go crazy for the Type 2 because of its low mintage and incredible mirror-like surfaces. If you happen to own one of those flawless 1981's Type 2 proofs in pristine condition, you could be sitting on something truly special. But even regular 1981 pennies from Philadelphia and Denver can have incredible value if they display rare errors. Minting errors are mistakes that occur during the coin production process, and some of them can make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a 1981 Lincoln penny that was struck off-center, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Or maybe a double die error, where parts of the design, like the date, Lincoln's face, or the letters, Liberty, and "In God We Trust," appear slightly doubled. Those small imperfections can turn an ordinary penny into a collector's treasure. There's also the famous transitional error, coins that were accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. Because 1981 was the last full year of copper cents, a few experimental planchets made from the new zinc composition could have slipped into the presses early, or a leftover copper planchet could have been used in 1982. If you ever find a 1981 penny that weighs noticeably less than the usual 3.11 grams, it might be one of those rare transitional errors, and that could make it worth a small fortune. Condition plays an enormous role too. Most 1981 pennies in circulation today have scratches, wear, or discoloration, which lowers their value. But coins that have been preserved perfectly, showing full original luster and no signs of wear, can command stunning prices at auction. Collectors call these high-grade coins mint state, often graded on the Sheldon scale from MS-60 to MS-70. A coin in MS-70 condition is considered perfect, with no flaws even under magnification, and those are almost impossible to find. That's exactly why collectors and investors are willing to pay so much for the best-preserved 1981 Lincoln pennies. If you've ever seen a penny that just looks unusually sharp, shiny, or flawless, it might be worth having it appraised by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies authenticate and grade coins, giving them a certified holder that guarantees their condition and authenticity. Many of the record-breaking prices at auctions have come from certified coins with exceptional grades and strong eye appeal. One of the most interesting facts about the 1981 Lincoln penny is how it represents the closing chapter of a historic era in U.S. coinage. The design itself, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, had already become a national icon since it first appeared in 1959. But as the mint prepared to change the metal composition, 1981 became a symbolic year, marking the end of pure copper cents and the beginning of something new. For collectors, that transition gives these coins both sentimental and financial value. So next time you're sorting through your change or cleaning out an old coin jar, pay attention to every detail. Check the mint mark, look closely for a sharp S or a filled one, and compare the date for any doubling. Weigh the coin if you can, to see if it matches the standard copper weight of 3.11 grams or something lighter. Even a small detail like an off-center strike, missing letters, or a repunched mint mark can be the difference between an ordinary penny and a rare collectible worth serious money. What makes coin collecting so exciting is that treasures like this can still be found in circulation today. People often overlook these small coins, never realizing that a fortune might be sitting right in their pocket. Today? Yes, that's right, a coin that most people would simply spend without a second thought could secretly be hiding a value that could change your life forever. So before you toss your old change aside or drop that penny in a jar, you might want to take a closer look, because the 1987 Lincoln penny might just be one of the hidden treasures still floating around in circulation today. The 1987 Lincoln cent is part of a long and iconic coin series that began all the way back in 1909. When the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln cent to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this coin became a symbol of American history, strength, and freedom. By 1987, the Lincoln penny had already seen several important design and composition changes, and this particular year sits right in the middle of one of the most fascinating periods in U.S. coinage history. Let's start with what makes the 1987 Lincoln penny unique. By this year, the U.S. Mint had already switched from the heavy copper composition used for decades to a lighter core made mostly of zinc with a thin copper plating. Each penny struck in 1987 weighed only about 2.5 grams, a major difference from the older 3.11 gram copper coins minted before 1982. These new zinc-based pennies were cheaper for the mint to produce, but they were also more prone to damage and corrosion, making pristine examples extremely hard to find today. That's why a 1987 penny in perfect condition is already desirable to collectors, but certain varieties and mint errors can send their value soaring into incredible figures. Now, 1987 pennies were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark. The San Francisco coins were special proof versions, struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets to create mirror-like surfaces for collectors. The Denver and Philadelphia mints, on the other hand, struck billions of coins for everyday use. With so many coins produced, you might think they're all common, but that's where things get interesting. Even among billions of coins, mistakes happen. During the minting process, small variations or errors can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. Some of the rarest 1987 Lincoln pennies are those with dramatic mint errors, coins struck off-center, double-struck coins, or even those with missing layers of copper revealing the zinc underneath. One of the most sought-after varieties is the double die error, where the date or lettering appears double due to a misalignment in the die. On a 1987 penny, a strong doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust can make collectors line up to bid on it. Another valuable detail to look for is the repunched mint mark, especially on the Denver mint coins. During the 1980s, mint marks were still being hand-punched onto dies, which sometimes caused the mark to appear doubled, shifted, or slightly misaligned. These repunched mint marks, often labeled RPM, repunched mint mark, in collector circles, are incredibly popular among error collectors. A clear, visible RPM can boost the value of your penny dramatically, especially if it's paired with high-grade condition, and speaking of condition, this is where the biggest difference in price lies. Most 1987 pennies in circulation today show wear, scratches, or discoloration. They've been handled by millions of people, stored in jars, or left in humid places that caused oxidation. But if you happen to find a 1987 penny that still has its original mint luster, bright, shiny, and free of any visible wear, you might just have a gem in your hands. Coins in mint state, MS, grades, particularly those graded MS 67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, are worth far more than face value. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint can also be incredibly valuable if they're flawless. Proof coins have that beautiful mirror finish and are often collected directly from the mint, but even among those, some have tiny imperfections or cameos that make them stand out. A deep cameo 1987 S proof penny, with strong contrast between the frosted design and the mirrored background, is highly collectible, and if it's certified in perfect PR 70 condition, the price can rise to astonishing heights. Another exciting area for collectors is finding transitional or planchet errors. Because the mint sometimes reuses equipment or materials between years, rare mistakes like a 1987 penny struck on a foreign planchet or on a leftover blank from another denomination can exist. These are extremely rare but have been documented in other years, so it's always worth checking the weight and edge of your coin. If something looks or feels different, you could be holding one of the rarest error coins ever discovered. Now let's talk about what to actually look for if you want to identify a valuable 1987 penny. Start by checking the date carefully. Use a magnifying glass or even your phone's zoom camera to inspect each letter and number for signs of doubling. Then, look at the mint mark. If there's a D, check whether it looks like it's been punched more than once. Examine Lincoln's portrait for sharp details in his hair, beard, and jacket, because a strong strike with high detail means your coin was well made, which increases its value. Next, flip the coin over to the reverse side, where the Lincoln Memorial is displayed. Look closely for doubling in the columns or letters of United States of America. Some pennies have been found with doubling so distinct that it's visible even without magnification, and those are the kinds that can make you thousands. The clarity of the steps on the Lincoln Memorial is also a grading factor. If all the lines and steps are crisp and complete, that's a sign your coin was struck with great precision, which collectors love. Collectors and numismatists, that's the fancy term for coin experts, always recommend protecting any coin that looks unique or especially shiny. Handle it by the edges, avoid cleaning it, and place it in a soft coin holder or sleeve. Even tiny scratches from cleaning can destroy a coin's value, so keeping it untouched is the best way to preserve its worth. Every year, auctions across the country surprise experts with how high some of these coins can sell for. When a rare 1987 Lincoln penny in flawless condition or with an unusual mint error hits the auction block, bidding wars can break out instantly. People who recognize the rarity and beauty of these coins know they're not just pieces of metal, they're pieces of American history that tell stories of precision, craftsmanship, and sometimes, lucky mistakes, and perhaps the most thrilling part of all is that these rare coins aren't locked away in museums. They're out there, in change jars, old boxes, estate collections, or even in your pocket right now. All it takes is one sharp eye and a little bit of curiosity to uncover something incredible. So the next time you come across a 1987 Lincoln Penny, take a few moments to really look at it. Because you never know, that tiny coin could be worth far more than you ever imagined, and one extraordinary 1987 Lincoln Penny, with a rare mint mark in perfect condition, was recently valued at an unbelievable $98,000.